Welcome to Chalk Dust, the podcast that gives you a front row seat into some of the best classrooms in the world. I'm Dr. Nathaniel Swain.
And I'm Rebecca Birch.
As you know, Rebecca, we have a lot of fun talking about all things great teaching on this podcast as we break down real classroom footage to see theory turn into practice.
And if you've enjoyed any of our previous episodes and you want to support our work, the best thing you can do to show your appreciation is like or subscribe to whatever channel you listen from. This helps Nathaniel and I to keep this project sustainable and rewarding.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we are recording and where you may be listening from. Here in Melbourne, I'd like to pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, to elders past and present.
And I'd like to pay my respect to the Gadigal people.
Today we're joined by classroom teacher and voice for effective instruction in primary mathematics, Brendan Lee. He works as an instructional coach with schools all over Australia. He's on the board of Ochre Education and has worked with the Australian Educational Research Organisation and the Grattan Institute. He also hosts his own podcast called Knowledge for Teachers, and we highly recommend it. You can also find the link in the show notes. A big welcome to you, Brendan Lee.
Thank you for having me. Really excited for this.
We're so lucky that Brendan is going to let us into his classroom so we can see him teach to his passion, mathematics. This lesson was delivered at Morwell Central Primary School, so a big shout out to the teachers and students there. Let's jump right into the lesson. Brendan, just for some context, you're teaching a Year 3-4 maths lesson on a multiplication strategy, is that right?
Yeah, community property.
Great. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the school?
Firstly, this is the first time I've actually taught this class before. So I've been working with the school for about 12 months. And yeah, part of, I guess, what I do is I like to kind of put my money where my mouth is and not just, go through the research and explain to teachers like how we can teach maths more effectively, but actually show them. And I just find it so important in bridging that gap between, these abstract ideas and making it a lot more concrete. Morwell Central is in Gippsland, and it's a school which is probably on the lower end of the socioeconomic status, and they've had to do a lot of work in building up the culture, really getting the standards in behaviour and routines really quite tight across the school. And so credit to Narelle and the team over there for the hard work that they've put into ensuring that, when someone like myself comes in, I'm able to kind of go in quite seamlessly and teach the lesson that I had planned to teach.
So we're going to look at some excerpts of the Activate Prior Knowledge section, the concept and skill development, as well as the guided practice part of the lesson. The full lesson is available to view on Brendan's website, and we'll also have it for you in the show notes. Here we go.
Just before we do so, can I just have everyone park their whiteboards and whiteboard equipment? So nothing in your hands right now. So just pop it down in front of you, just so it's not a distraction, because I need your full attention on the board and focus on what I'm saying. In a moment, we're going to use those whiteboards, but for now, I'm just going to get you to focus here. So when you see this icon, this tells us that we're going to do a choral response. So that means everyone's going to say it together. So I want you to, not yet, when I say go, I want you to skip count by twos to 20. Now, what's important here is that we say it together. Choral response means it should sound like a choir. All right, so I don't want one student going 2, 4, 6, 7, I want all of you saying it together. So we need to get a nice rhythm to how we do it. Okay, so I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then when I point to you, we're going to start with 2. We're going to go from 2 to 20. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
So setting up that expectation obviously is really important in a classroom that you're just jumping into. But this formative assessment that you're doing as well, I think is really helpful. So what I notice here, Brendan, right from the start, is that you're using this opportunity to check for the students' prior knowledge and their fluency, but also actually setting up your routines really well. Can you tell us about how you do that usually?
Yeah, the whole activating prior knowledge part of the lesson is, firstly, because this is a class I hadn't taught before, it went a little bit longer than I would normally have it go for if it was my own class. And that's mainly to do with what you just saw there, is actually teaching them what my expectations are and how I want them to go through these routines. It was also, to help the teachers that were observing the lesson to see what I do to set up these routines and how it's not just a matter of assuming that they know how to do these things. I'm actually going to teach it to them and make it really quite explicit in what the expectations are. You also saw me kind of chuck in a non-example there just so that I was able to get on top of, precisely what I actually wanted them to do. And then, yeah, this is just all part of checking in with what they can do and can't do.
Let's watch a little bit more.
Can I just have third row? Can you guys go by yourselves? Go.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
And front row, go.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
Thank you. All right. Have a look at this. Have a look at this. 5 times 3 equals 8. I'm thinking there. Is that correct? No, it's not. All right. So what I want you to do in a moment is you're going to turn to your partner and you're going to say, I'm going to only give you 20 seconds, and you're going to discuss what did they do wrong? What did they do wrong? So have a look at this. Think about it. Does everyone know who their partner is? Okay. So when I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and then I need you to turn and talk, and you've got 20 seconds only. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Is that your partner?
It's always great to see the class crackle into life when you give them a task like this, isn't it?
Three.
And I love the isolating rows so that no
One.
one's goldfishing
Thank you.
and
All eyes
pretending.
back this way.
Very smart.
Okay, so think again. I'm just going to ask a couple of different students to tell me what you and your partner spoke about. So what did they do wrong? So hands down. What did they do wrong? What did you and your partner talk about?
They mixed up the first one.
Did anyone want to add to that? What did you guys talk about?
Me and Splash Kid was talking about 5 times 3 is 15,
Yeah?
not 8, because the answer is just related plus 40 times big degree, and it's a prime, so it's 15.
This should be 15. So what did they do wrong? They added, or they should say 5 and 3 instead of multiplying them.
What's the main benefit of mistake analysis, Brendan?
Yeah, well, with the mistake analysis, again, it's a great way to actually unpack their mathematical thinking and reasoning. And so what I'm also trying to do at the same time is see if they are able to kind of address and have an understanding of like some of the common mistakes that students can make.
I guess the reasoning is sort of comes through in the way that they explain it as well, which you might not get when the goal is just to get the answer right. So I kind of love that you did get a lot of analysis and a lot of potential explanations for what might have gone wrong there, which was cool.
Yeah, and it's something you don't see in secondary so much as well. Is like there's not a lot of sort of those verbal reasoning tasks or explanation tasks when it comes to vocabulary. It's more teacher does, student does, that sort of back and forth. So it's really interesting to see how that reinforces learning in the primary classroom, and potentially I think that's something we should be doing more of in secondary.
Yeah, and for this lesson, because it's on community property and we're looking at multiplication, I wanted to actually see what their understanding of multiplication and addition and our 4 operations, what it actually was like before we delved into the main part of the lesson.
It's kind of a deal breaker.
Okay, here we're going to use our mini whiteboards. All right. Now, when you do this, can I borrow your one? Is it Maisie? Okay. When you do this, I want you to make sure that you set your answer, and you only have to write the answer. You don't have to write everything. I want you to have it in 2 columns. So the first column is going to start on the left side. The second column is going to start around the middle. If you need to, do exactly that. Have a line. How about your board?
Yep.
Have a line straight down the middle so you know column 1 answers, column 2 answers. I'm going to give you 30 seconds here to do as many as you can. If you do not get them all done, that is fine. 3, 2, 1, go. Just the answers. Yep, just the answers. So you should have 5 answers down each column.
Usually I'd circulate the room a bit more, but it was quite tight.
Shows how the room is really important as well. If you can get around more easily, you can get to certain parts of the room better than in other situations. This is a bit tight, isn't it?
So when I say chin it, I want you all to say chin it with me. 3, 2, 1, and chin it.
So, Brendan, we've got teachers experimenting with mini whiteboards in secondary now. They've seen that they're a really great tool for that sort of sentence level stuff. So what do you think is like a rookie error with those, the behavior routines for the whiteboard? What would you say is the number one thing to be aware of with mini whiteboard routines?
The number one thing, that's a big one there, Rebecca, because there's so many things that can go wrong with mini whiteboards.
Give me 10.
Yeah, all right. Well, so I guess right from the start, right, you need to have a routine as to how the mini whiteboards are going to be collected or handed out. Mm-hmm. And so that needs to be as efficient as possible. So if possible, they've all got their own ones. If they're at their desk, they've got them at their desk already, whether it's one of those drawers underneath the desk or, a pocket behind their seat. If they're coming in, I've seen some teachers be really creative with having different stations around the room, and you kind of walk around the room, you collect them as you come in.
Yeah, right.
Another one, if you've got your classes set up in rows in the way that I've got it set up there, you can have like your line leader, and then they pass them all down, and you get that really smooth. And you have like mini races as a class, and the one I'll always say is, right, whoever can do the quickest and the quietest, you're going to get the token rewards. The whole line will get them. And then when they're actually using them, you need to have whether you're using the language of Park-It, Chin-It, hoverboards, Bin-It, all of that stuff needs to be really tight. And again, we're spending time in actually teaching what the expectations are, how to behave in that manner. In this instance, because it wasn't the main thing, I've done a little bit of pre-teaching before what you've just seen here, but it was a light touch, and the kids were already used to using mini whiteboards anyway, so it wasn't like it was a completely foreign activity that they were doing. I think the main thing that I got them to do maybe a bit differently might have been that saying the Chin-It.
I often talk to teachers about doing that, and I always do that in mine. Why do you necessarily do that, Brendan?
Yeah, I like it. Firstly, like it's culture building. Like we all feel like we're a part of something. And secondly, it's that verbal reminder for those students that want to keep writing. So it's like a second reminder. So you've said it, the class has said it. Oh, I've got to stop writing and chin my board. Yeah.
I made the mistake of buying metal mini whiteboards. And they make this almighty sound when they put them back on the desk. So I have to be pretty tight with my routines, or I have this clattering noise in 25 different places as they come down again.
It's a bit much for everyone.
It's a bit much, yeah.
I can't handle that either. And I think, the routines around placing them down and putting them away is really, really important.
Don't
I also get them to
bananas.
say Chin-It all together, as opposed to me just saying Chin-It as the teacher, because it means that any other conversation or potential chattering is sort of finished, and they can't say something else if they're all saying Chin-It. So it means that you can have 10 solid or 5 solid seconds to scan without any potential background noise, which I think is important as well. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit now into the teacher modeling part of the lesson, and there's a little cheat that Brendan's organised here.
It's not really cheating. It's actually just a trick. Okay? It's a cheat code, yeah. It's not cheating in the way that if you do this at school, you're going to get in trouble. It's cheating in the way that you don't have to think as hard anymore, right? And so if you know stuff, it's actually going to help you in the future. You can use what you know to help you with things that you don't know. Isn't that cool? So here we go. My turn. This is my turn. So all eyes on the board, fully focused, so that you can learn how to cheat. Here we go. 2 groups of 3. All right, this is what it can look like. You guys have shown me that you get this. So 2 groups of 3, this is what it can look like. 2 times 3 equals 6. We also know this, sir. All right, 3 times 2 is also 6. All right, we've got 3 here, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3 groups of 6, 3 groups of 2, and 2 groups of 3. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Can everyone see that? I'm going to show you another example. On a number line, this is what it can look like. All right, if we're using that repeated addition, and we're going up in 5s, we're going to do that 3 times. So we're going 5, 10, 15, 15. We're not going to go to 20 because we're only doing it 3 times. 3 lots of 5. Now here we have 5 lots of 3. but that also gives us 15. It's the same answer, different problem. This is why it's a cheat code. Because if you know that, or if you know that, you know the other one as well. You actually know, you get 2 for 1. You know when you go shopping and they have like discounts, you can buy 2 for 1. This is like what you're getting here. If you learn one fact, you actually learn 2 facts at once. Do you have a question or comment?
I was gonna say, if it was 3 times 5, I count by 5, so could I get to that?
We could count by 5s, right? But what I'm trying to teach you today is that you don't have to count by 5s, because if you already know one of these facts, so put your hand up if you're good with your 5 times table. Yeah, a lot of us already are, hands down. So that means that if you know what 5 times 3 is, all of a sudden you're starting to tick the box off for what your 3 times table as well. If you know what 5 times 3 is, you also know what 3 times 5 is. You know both. Okay, there's the same answer. This is what it looks like. It's the same answer. So if I know 2 times 9 equals 18, then I also know 9 times 2 equals 18. The same answer. The same answer. We're going to have a go of this together now. Yellow slide. Yellow slide. So, community property. What actually is it? You're going to get a go in a moment. Just keep your whiteboards where they are. The community property of multiplication says that you can multiply numbers in any order and the answer will always stay the same. Can you read this out with me now? So the community property of multiplication says that you can multiply numbers in any order and the answer will always be the same. Read it, study it. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to read it and study it and get it into your brain. Go. Read it, study it, memorize it.
So you're pushing the point here, Brendan, in terms of getting that terminology. We'll ask you about vocab in a little bit, but I think it's a really good interspersal.
Yeah, we've just been doing this. How it's the same. 2 times 6, 2 lots of 6, and 6 times 2, 6 groups of 2, both equal 12. 2 for 1, remember? We're getting 2 for 1. This is not it. Okay, 2 times 6 equals 12, and 12 times 2 does not equal 6. Here, I want you to show me underneath your chin which definition is correct. So if you're going for A, you're going to show me 1 finger underneath your chin. If you're going to go for B, 2 fingers underneath your chin. C, 3 fingers. What does community property of multiplication mean? Does it mean multiplying numbers in different orders gives different results? Does it mean the community property only works for addition, not multiplication? Or does it mean you can multiply numbers in any order and the answer will always be the same? A, B, C, 3, 2, 1. Show me your answer. Go. Underneath your chin. Nice work.
Brendan, I don't know if you've noticed a little detail about explicit direct instruction, but the thing I like most about that model is a little step called, saying why that particular thing is important, right? So it really appeals to, if you're thinking about motivation, it's really supportive of students' autonomy because they've got a reason to care about this particular thing. So in everyday life, we don't really care about the commutative properties of mathematics, but you've given them this reason to care and this hook into the lesson. So you've put this nefarious looking kid who looks exactly the kind of kid who would like to cheat, and you've given them this reason that, this is actually going to make your life easier.
Yeah, and it really comes back to the importance of understanding how our students need to be able to make connections to what they currently know. And they also need to be motivated to pay attention. Like, we understand how attention is a currency for learning. And so if the students don't have an understanding as to what's in it for me, well, then why should they put in the effort to focus, to concentrate, to try to learn this new idea that this random teacher's coming in to teach them? I needed to make sure that they were motivated to pay attention for this lesson. And so, that's why I kind of came up with that hook.
Interested in your elevator pitch for people who are skeptical about this. How much does vocabulary play a part in maths teaching, Brendan?
Yeah, it's huge. And often when I present on teaching maths effectively, I'll have a whole kind of 5-minute section where I'm just unpacking vocab. And mainly because like there's so much in it. Like Sarah Powell and colleagues, like they've done research where they found by the end of year 8, students are required to know more than 1,200 unique terms. And so, yeah, it's extremely important. There's a really strong correlation between maths vocab and fluency and computation. And when you actually start to think about it, Nathaniel, I know that you love your morphology and etymology. Like when you actually look at the way that our English language works, when it comes to things like numbers, it's extremely complex and really difficult. They don't necessarily have a strong understanding as to what those numbers mean. Our teens, right? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, like there's no like logical pattern there. Even as we move up in tens, 10, 20, 30, 40. Firstly, like the phonological awareness, like actually being able to hear those numbers is quite difficult for a lot of young people. If we don't break it down, we're actually doing a real disservice to our students because we're not making it easy for them to remember these unique mathematical terms.
And I noticed that you did a check for understanding as part of the I do. That's something I think a lot of teachers don't necessarily think of as part of the I do phase. So why did you include that multiple choice at the end of that little section?
Part of the reason why you might get some student input is actually like as an engagement tool. Right? I'm actually not so much checking for understanding, but Craig Barton refers to it as like checking for listening. Right. So that's why I did what I did then was I realised I'd been talking for probably the longest period of the lesson without them having any input. Got it. And so I thought, look, let's check. Have they been listening? Have they got the main takeaway from that part of the lesson that I wanted them to take away?
Great.
All right, so we've got a final segment now, which is jumping straight into some worked examples before independent practice. So this would be sometimes classed as the guided practice or the we do part of the lesson. So we'll jump into that and then we'll bring in your sort of insights at the end of this segment.
So see here how we've got 2 times 3 equals 6. And then I've put 2 groups of 3 is 6. And then over here I've got 3 groups of 2 is 6. I need you on your mini whiteboards, you're going to draw the same thing and write the same answer. You don't have to do this. That's just to help you work out what to do, but you're going to answer this question here. So what does 2 times 4 look like? And then what does 4 times 2 look like? Yep, off you go.
And just for the audio listeners, Brendan's got those equations visualized on the board in dots.
Can you see how here?
And he's checking in with an individual student beautifully and referring back to the task.
Yeah. So, and then how many should go in there? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's such a good example of where whole class teaching can actually be really adaptive. It gives you a bit of quiet space to actually approach students in a really discreet way. I know we kept Brendan's mic'd, but often the rest of the class won't even notice.
So you can show me how it looks different. Show me how it looks different. Draw it up like this. Right, I want to see your circles and in groups. Yep, like that. And then make sure that you show me what one links up to what. So which one is showing 2 times 4? Which one is showing 4 times 2?
And for people catching the audio recording, the students are drawing groups of dots and grouping them in different ways. So they've got 2 times 4, which they can show as 2 groups of 4. And that's exactly what Brendan's now explaining.
Here's a little hint for some of you. Okay, so that's how our 2 groups should look. Nice. Yep.
And what I love about this, as you said, Rebecca, this is the whole group all working together. But the difference in the terms of supporting different needs that you might have in the class is that Brendan's cues are coming in for some students just at the time that they need them to get the task right. For others, they've already completed this bit of the task and they're powering ahead to the second part, which is where that, catering for different needs sort of fits in.
More seconds.
And that's where the floor works well. He's standing right in front of them. He can see everything that's going on those whiteboards.
3, 2, 1, and chin it. All right, so your board should look like this. Okay? Without the color, your board should look like this, where you've got 2 groups of 4 And then you can even write down 2 groups of 4 is 8. And then for 4 times 2, we should have 4 groups of 2 is also 8. Okay, can we wipe our boards again? 3 seconds.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm noticing, Brendan, and it's a question from a non-mathematics and secondary teacher, is it looks a little bit like dual coding is happening. So is this an example of where you're sort of drawing on cognitive load theory like dual coding, where you're using multiple modes to demonstrate an idea?
It would probably fall under dual coding, but like a framework that we have in maths is called the Concrete Pictorial Abstract Framework. So that's actually what it would fall under, I guess, officially, because what we're trying to do in maths is we're trying to move students' understanding into that abstract space as quickly as we can, but we go as slow as we must. And the reason for that is it's just a lot faster to work in the kind of abstract mode where we're just operating with numbers and symbols rather than drawing, like you just saw.
For listeners who aren't sure as well, dual coding is a part of cognitive load theory that looks at how presenting information visually as well as verbally or in a written format can complement, but then sometimes can conflict. When it's working well, you've got a visual that complements beautifully and that takes advantage of 2 parts of your working memory, if you like, the visual component and the written or verbal component. Ideally, you don't have someone trying to read something and listen to something at the same time, because you can't have 2 verbals happening at once, and you can't look at 2 things at once, really. Like, you need to just look at one thing at a time and then maybe listen to the teacher's dialogue or discussion about it at the same time. I'm interested as well in the interactions that you can actually do in the guided practice. Like we saw there, how much you're able to get around the room. And like you said there, don't be reliant on the slide to dictate how the lesson unfolds. I've been saying to schools that you don't want to be owned by the slides. Like, you want to work the slide, if so to speak, the way that you showed us. We also worked the room really well. Tell us about how you usually spend your time when students are doing that part of the We Do guided practice part of the lesson.
The way I kind of explain it is that this is how I differentiate. It's through the levels of support and practice opportunities that I provide. So when I'm seeing students that do need that support, when they're at that acquisition stage of learning, that novice stage of learning, like, we want to give them feedback as quickly as possible. So at the end, I'll give whole class feedback, but as they're working, I'll give them that one-on-one feedback and corrective feedback if it's needed then and there, rather than waiting until the end. So that way we can get them on track faster. And so that's why, I'm constantly circulating that room, checking as they're doing it. So
why do you think that phase of the lesson is often skipped? Because, guided practice seems like a great opportunity where you can do all of that really important, meaty sort of work. A lot of the time people will do a mini lesson or a short sort of I do, and then the trend is for people just to send students off to a task or a problem-solving opportunity. Why do you reckon that happens?
I think it probably comes back to that curse of knowledge again, where we as teachers, we think that what we're teaching is quite a simple concept or procedure, whatever it is that we're trying to teach. And so we think, I've done this great model, given them some worked examples, they're going to be good to go now, I'm just going to send them off. Not actually taking into account the fact that, well, if I had checked for understanding before sending them off for independent practice, I would probably get in front of some of those misconceptions, or even just getting in front of the fact that they didn't quite understand what my instructions were.
And it's not just one check, isn't it? I think some people might think I need to just check for understanding once and then I can send them to independent problem solving. Like, there's quite a lot going on there, I imagine.
I gave some teachers the job of, they had to record how many opportunities to respond the students got during the guided practice phase. So that's why what they found was they averaged more than 2 opportunities to respond every minute. You want to have more practice opportunities prepared than you probably need to actually use, because that way you can ensure that for those that might need a little bit more support, some more practice opportunities, you're ready to give that to them and at the point of need.
I've got a question on that actually, because later on you do mix up the formats a little bit. So in this sequence that we're watching, the problem pairs are extremely close to the original worked example. They don't have to do a lot of transfer to get this next example. You've made it as easy as possible for them to do, what you're asking them to do. But later on, there's different ways that you ask those questions. So I'm wondering, is the point of that to see if they can achieve near transfer that's not as close as that problem pair? So that you want them to sort of like increase the distance, from which they can get from the first example.
what I was trying to do is I was seeing if they could actually use the bit of knowledge that I was trying to give them in that lesson. It's still the same concept. So yeah, I guess you could maybe refer to it as near transfer, but it's still the same concept in terms of I'm wanting them to show me that they understand the concept of community property. Or the main thing that changes is that I actually take away the prompting and the scaffolding as we move further along. So that's the guidance fading effect that I've used. And so starting with lots of prompting and scaffolding, and then I've gradually faded that away. And so it looks like it's quite different, but they're still doing the exact same activity.
So if I've got this right, it's less about practice testing and more about removing that scaffolding over time and building up their independence. Okay, good.
So it's not so much that I've asked them to apply it, but it's actually that I've just taken away the prompting and the scaffolding as we've gotten towards the end, which then leads into the independent practice. So the way my kind of lessons work is that by the end of guided practice, they're actually kind of doing independent practice. Before they go into official independent practice.
I guess too, they might get to that point at a different time to their peers. So you're ready for some of them to move on and others might need a little bit more support.
Yeah.
Is that adaptive teaching again? Well, it's a real pleasure, I think, to have your classroom featured as well as to hear from you directly on this episode of Chalk Dust, Brendan. We've really enjoyed seeing you in action and also hearing your rationales. Rebecca, what's some of your takeaways from today?
I have got a takeaway from this mathematics lesson. Yes, I have. This last piece that we talked about varying the formats. I think if students see the same example again and again, I know we're supposed to flood them with examples, but if they see the same format again and again, I'm not actually ever 100% sure if they just know the format or if they actually know how to do the skill. So a really good example of that would be teaching anachronism, giving the same format, giving them lots of expressions and different things that you wouldn't see in ancient Egypt. Can they do it for Renaissance Italy? Can they do it for expressions as well as, kind of features of setting? If it's a car or whether it's something like an expression like LOL doesn't belong in, a couple of 100 years ago. So that's what I'm going to take away from it is just the number of repetitions of that skill and how to make it sort of gradually, a tiny bit more difficult, but still within the range of what I've just taught them.
And look how you managed to fit in an English example in an episode about maths teaching, Rebecca. That was very, very clever. My takeaway is I really enjoyed how you embedded even 10 or 15 seconds of routine building in the phases of the lesson. And it happened, given that it's a class that you're working with for the first time, but it shows you how if it's your own class, you could just be doing these subtle nudges towards the way that you want your lesson to unfold and what you're expecting students to do, not just what the learning is, but also what the behavioural learning could be. And I think it was subtle, but it was also very efficient and effective, and just shows you how you just want to make sure that your routines are always going to be really tight so that they can focus on the learning. You could hear a pin drop a lot of the time in that classroom. Even though it was a smaller sort of space, everyone was focused, everyone was on task. I think it allowed you to actually spend the time focusing on the learning. But I know, as teachers, we've actually got a lot going on in our working memory, both the lesson, how it's unfolding, the time and how much we've got left, the routines and how they're working and whether you need to tighten them or not, as well as whether kids are understanding us. So awesome to see that in action, and just makes you realise that you can continue building routines with your students even incidentally like that.
Absolutely. Brendan, thank you so much for being with us. We've gotten so much out of this. Even me, English teacher, I've gotten heaps out of it. And I love how some of these aspects of great classroom teaching, they apply to any subject. And I think we've really brought that out of today's session. So thank you. And folks, don't forget to check the show notes for any of the resources that we've mentioned. And don't forget to click like. It really helps our ratings.
So just a reminder as well that you can catch Brendan on his podcast, Knowledge for Teachers. And we really want to thank you, Brendan, for being on Chalk Dust today.
Yeah, it's been awesome just kind of unpacking how complex teaching and learning actually is, and the amount of decisions that you've got to be making throughout a lesson. It's endless, and it just enables you to be more effective. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable. Thanks for the opportunity to have a chat with both of you.
I'm sure our listeners will really appreciate that. Thank you, Brendan.